Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Wealth Building Wednesday, where we answer your money questions with style and grace. To ask your question, go to buildingwealthtogether.com and click Ask JJ or leave a voicemail at 1-833-4-ASK-JJC. Normally we'd answer questions, but today we've got some wealth building teaching instead.
Before the episode begins, let me remind everyone that my family does a lot of resetting during the summer. And so what you're about to hear is an excerpt from the Women Building Wealth Together conference. And if you'd like more information about what you heard, you can go to jjclink.com/VIP. And oh, by the way, if you want to make sure that you are the first to know when we start going live again in September, get on my mailing list. That's at jjclink.com/list. Now let's get into the show. Hello, everybody. I can't wait to introduce our next speaker. We have today Rosalind Henderson. She is an author, sought-after speaker, trainer, and she specializes in helping sales-resistant entrepreneurs who know that they need a consistent income to keep their business alive, learn how to stop being their own worst enemy and begin to heal so they can reach bigger goals. She's going to help you increase sales, increase impact, increase all the things that you need to have your business running so that you are running your business and your business is not running you. Rosalind, welcome
Absolutely.
To Building Wealth Together. I'm so excited to have you today.
Oh, JJ, it's just an honor to be here to chat with you. I'm excited.
Well, one of the things that I liked about this topic that you and I are going to be talking about today is that it really does apply to all areas of life. And I have found that most success principles are like that. They apply across all areas of life. Being consistent, showing up, being present. These things apply. So can you tell us a little bit today about what a sales resistant entrepreneur is and how to identify if you are one?
Well, it begins with my story. The reason why I am so in love with helping sales resistant entrepreneurs is because I was a teacher for 30 years. And about year 20, I decided, you know what? I've had enough of teaching. It's time to design my exit strategy. And I was loving leadership. Got trained by John Maxwell. You've been trained by John Maxwell. And I wanted to start my training business. The first thing I realized, however, was that I hated sales. It felt so unnatural. And for me, there were instances from my past where I was interacting with these pushy, cigar smoking, manipulative salespeople, and that left a bad taste in my mouth. And secondly, what I learned in regards to me in sales is that it triggered issues in me. For example, when a prospect said no to me, oh my gosh, that was rejection. And I would find myself having a hard time recovering from that, getting back on the horse and running sales calls. So there were indicators to me that I needed help. Luckily, because my business was tanking and I realized, oh, do I really want to go back to teaching? Luckily, I was able to get professionally trained in sales. That was a game changer for me. I began to realize that there were steps in the system that I needed to master. I really worked hard on my thinking and my emotions and my belief system. And after some time, when I first ran that new program, I began to go, whoa, because I was noticing that I was able to close one sale after another. And it started with Chick-fil-A. I was able to close business with them, several Chick-fil-A's. The first account that I closed was for $2,500. Then UPS, I was able to close, I think it was about $500. It just was regularly, the ability to close was regular. And boy, I was just so enthused about that. And I was so happy about the transformation that it really shifted my focus in business. I started saying, I think I want to go down this route, help other people, help other sales resistant entrepreneurs overcome that, become confident in their ability to sell. And once you get that tool under your belt, that's financial empowerment. You write your own check once you have that skill under your belt. So I love working with people who are like I was years ago and watch them go through that transformation. And I guess that's the teacher in me, because I love pulling out that dormant potential and empowering people. So if a second grade teacher can do it, I believe anybody can master sales. It's about learning. So that's how that started, JJ.
Oh, I love it. I love it, because I know for me, like when I went into business for myself, I thought I was never going to have to do sales again. And many people know my background, 23 years in the military, but along the route of getting to the military and getting out of the military, I had tried different part-time jobs and things. And usually it was retail or some kind of sales, because sales has unlimited commission. Like you just said, once you acquire the skill of selling, you're able to pretty much generate unlimited income and generate income on demand. And so I really, thought that was going to be me. And then it was like, oh, all these tactics feel so slimy and so salesy, and I just don't want to be that person. And I thought I was going to hang out my little credentials and set up my little website and tell everybody I was in business, and the phone was just going to ring off the hook because I'm so awesome. Yes,
Absolutely.
I am awesome, but that phone did not ring off the hook. And it was a couple of years before I really understood that by learning not only the mechanics of sales, but the mindset of sales, that I am actually helping more people move forward and have greater impact and significance in their lives. So
Love
how
it.
do yeah. So how do we begin to move forward in this? I mean, clearly it's work with Rosalind, but what are some steps we can take today in order to move forward in this goal in our lives?
Well, I'm going to probably center and focus in this conversation between you and I on mindset, because we can have all the business tools and skills that you can imagine. You might be able to be a great marketer. You might be someone who's great at real estate wholesaling, all aspects of your business. But let me just say that these tools are rendered unusable if you have an execution problem here. Sometimes we spend so much time in our business saying, oh, it must be a marketing problem. Let me go run here to this conference. Oh, I'm not great enough in my expertise. Let me hire one coach after another. Oh my goodness, you have enough skills. Sometimes we're focusing on everything but the main thing that's going to keep us in business. Why? Because maybe we fear sales, and because, as I mentioned before, it presses different buttons in you, so we avoid it. And there's our business. After some time, it's gasping, it's last breaths, it's on a and that is oftentimes the time we wake up and go, boy, I'm going to have to take this fundamental skill seriously if I'm going to stay in business. And I would even say, JJ, I wonder, to what percentage does this account for so many businesses ending, tanking, and why people lose their business? Does it have to do with some of the issues in us that we live with and that we act on, the ways in which we self-sabotage? Could it be some of those things? Is it the way that we think? Is it the fact that we allow certain attitudes to prevail and taint our productivity and to taint our behavior and decision making? Thereby, we blow up our own business. These are the questions that I ask myself all the time, because when we have an execution problem here, oftentimes we're talking about self-sabotage. And execution problems can look like so many different things. It takes on disguises. For instance, we can blow up our efforts if we have a low self-esteem and we're not charging what we should be charging to stay in business because of self-worth
A mouthful
issue.
right there.
Oh yeah, and that's real. And I'm going to stay there for a moment or two, because I'm really realizing when we are blind to the beauty and the gifts that God has given us and told us to take authority of. If we are blind to it, then we're going to fail to take ownership of our gifts, which means that we sometimes minimize our talents and interests, and we go, everybody can do this. Everybody's good at tech. No, not everybody's good at tech, and they don't do it the way you do it. It's the minute that we begin to be responsible and say, I've been given this gift. I've got to own it. I've got to grow it until it becomes expertise so I can transform the lives of those around me. That's the purpose of a gift. And JJ, you and I are both Christians, and that whole story about the slaves being given, I think it was talents, and then the owner of those talents went away, and you have that one slave who says, you know what, I'm too scared to make a profit off of this talent. I'm too scared to do anything with it. I'm going to bury it 6 feet under. And he does just that, thinking that, oh, hey, I'm doing great. I mean, I didn't lose it. And then the master comes back, and boy, isn't there a tongue lashing at the end? And isn't that servant, that slave, wasn't he sent to the outer reaches of heaven? He was in a hellish state as a result because he sat on the talent. And I need your talent, JJ. This person over here needs my talent, because I do believe that I have an audience that is just for me. I have my own tribe. JJ, you have your tribe. If I don't show up bringing my healing qualities or the ability to solve other people's problems, if I don't use it, that means some people don't get serviced in the way that they should have, because I was uncooperative with God. Okay, I'll end that, JJ, right
well,
there.
It's like Dr. Cheryl Wood says, somebody's waiting on what you're sitting on. And we think that staying the same and keeping things the same is the normal progression of life. But the normal progression of life is to continue growing. And abundance is a normal progression of life. And that's why trees grow, plants grow, animals grow, everything grows. Things that stay the same are abnormal and unnatural.
Yes.
And so when I think of that parable of the talents, and the one servant gets in trouble because all they did was bury instead of at least putting it in the market and doing the minimal amount needed to grow. In my life, I think, okay, what is the minimum that I at least should be doing? I may not know how to make the 10 talents, I may not know how to double my money, but what's the minimum? And I see it all the time as a financial planner. So many of us are fearful, and this goes back to what you're saying about mindset. So many of us are fearful about the future that we won't even put our money in a money market or put it in the stock market or do the basic things. And so that same mindset can also be applied to sales, because sometimes sales is skill set. Like I remember when I was in a sales training one time and we were doing role play, and I thought I'd made a good thing. And at the end I'm done, and the guy's like, close me. And I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. And he's like, close me. And I was like, so when do you want to book your appointment? And in that instant, I was like, I've been doing this for years. And it never occurred to me that at the end of the conversation to ask for the sale. I just figured, I'm not going to be a pressury person. If they wanted it, they would say, yeah, I want it, sign me up. But just the act of asking for the sale,
yes,
totally changed my business. And so sometimes it's the mechanics, but sometimes it's the mindset. And I'm going to share with you something that happened recently. Actually, I mean, I'm at this point in my business where my time is valuable, and I'm not going to say nobody can ever approach me without paying, but I've created free pathways for people to get help that can't afford it. Because I remember being in $845,000 of debt. Like yes. I wasn't paying nobody to help me with nothing. I was getting free from the internet, free from the library. And YouTube wasn't as big back then as it is now. But I wasn't. Look, you wanted $1,000 for your course. That was going to be later, because I didn't have even $10, right? So I'm always going to create a pathway, but you're not going to take a day of my son's spring break and not compensate me. Right. So even now with that, though, sometimes I'm giving a presentation and I was giving a presentation and I'm telling you, the one person who was sitting there like this and just like, like the body language was just so, I am not interested. And after a while, this was the only person left in the presentation because everybody else had already signed up and gone about their way. Because, when you're professional, you know what you want. And if the value's there, you don't need a long sales presentation. Give me the link. Let me sign up for it. Let me go on about my day. At the end of it, I'm like, do you have any questions? And she asked all these questions. And I thought, this is a waste of my time. And I almost cut off the presentation. And then she said something that shocked me. And I've been doing this for years and I'm a full-time entrepreneur.
Yes.
She says, I knew before you even started talking that I wanted in because I'd already been on your website and I'd already researched you. And I knew I wanted to be a part of this thing, this movement that you were starting. Send me the link to pay in full. And in my mind, I'm like, body language would not have told me that. But what we do sometimes is we look at the body language or we look at people and they're thinking and we think they're not with us, but they're actually just their analytical style. And our fears, our insecurities, the past that we've interpreted as failure, which may not even have been failure. Like I could have left that if I had just closed it out and said, okay, that's my presentation. If you want more information, go to the link. Bye. If I'd have left it at that, I would have never known. And she turned around and within the hour, that money was in my account, y'all. And so what I saw from that is like, wow, even after you've been doing this for a while, sometimes you need a little mindset tune-up because she was the last person on that call that I thought was going to participate.
You're making so many good points here. You're making so many good points.
Stop and let you expound on them.
You're basically just go ahead and take my conversation and run with it because we always have to manage ourselves. We always have to make sure. One thing I see, especially female entrepreneurs doing, is that we just make assumptions. We have no basis for making the assumption. We just assume because they said that, because this person in the sales conversation didn't say that, because of the tone of voice, because of the body language, okay, that, I forget it. I don't have this. I didn't make this sale. And I remember talking to someone very recently who is in the works to become a client of mine. She was absolutely sure that she was not going to follow up with a particular prospect because of the things you talked about, her body language, because she was a hemming and a hawing, saying that she needed to talk to her husband before she gave an answer. So she was not, I said, follow up because you're making assumptions that you can't even prove.
Yeah, right.
She followed up with that person and hey, she signed up with her readily that I think a couple of days later. And she was Rosalind, you're so wonderful. The thing is that we are going to always have to sit back for a moment and do some self-reflection and see where we might be kind of bottlenecking ourselves process, getting in the way of what can be a sale. So you make a very, very good point because it is, again, this right here that gets in the way of executing. We just talked about the servant who fears maybe investing, like you're teaching us how to invest and to make more money and how to put ourselves in this greater position for the future. But we're so into the fear, we're navel gazing so much that we rather spend the money in the present, get the nails, get the weave, get the diamond rope necklace, whatever, to look like we have money, than rather than getting over our fear and again, investing so that we can say 20, 30 years down the road, I am a millionaire and now I can share this wealth with my family and create a legacy. This is why we need to contain that fear and admit it, number one, and get over it. And there's a lot of tools to do just that. so that we are our best friend, so that we are helping ourselves acquire whatever the goal is.
So we can be our best friend instead of our worst enemy.
Absolutely. And it's really, I think, something that we don't hear in the literature a lot. We hear, well, we're beginning to hear about mental health and the importance of mental health. But I want to push it even a little further, JJ, and say that, look, all of this self-talk, the barraging, critical self-talk, all the self-sabotage, all the inner conflicts, all the limits and beliefs that are happening oftentimes subconsciously, we can still take so much more responsibility for our emotional health than we do. Yes, I'm hearing here and there in the media about, hey, mental health issues. Let's normalize that. Let's go see a therapist. I'm all for therapists, but there are tools, easy to use and simple tools that we can use every day. We can make it part of our lifestyle. I call it self-care, emotional, mental self-care, so that we are mitigating those fears, mitigating the self-sabotage, that, again, that we begin to shift those energies that are blocking us from living our fullest potential. And so that's one emphasis that I put into my 6-month mega sales intensive. We put a lot of energy in, yes, the system. I have a 9-part sales system that needs to be mastered. We talk about best practices, and we do mock sales presentations. We do all of that. But I put an equal emphasis on what goes on here and providing tools to my students, so when they're not around Rosalind, that they can use these tools on their own to begin to shift those energies so that they can become confident, bold, more persuasive, and powerful in their sales presentations. So that's very, very important to me, that we understand that we can be a lot more responsible in our emotional health. In expressing our abilities and living our life to the fullest. We can do so much more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that really shocked me, I mean, we always, as we grow in our lives, we're always told we have to learn how to relax and stress less, and self-care and me time, and all those things are great, right? But I always like, I don't have time for that, which is when you need it the most, right? But it wasn't until after the car accident that pretty much ended my military career that I went under the care of a particular neurologist, Dr. Amen, Dr. Faber, who worked for Dr. Amen. And I learned about the impact of stress and the impact of the fears and the anxieties of the future, how it constricts the blood flow to the very areas of your brain that are needed in order to come up with the creative thinking strategies, to come up with the out of the box solutions. And so it's like a self-feeding cycle that you're anxious, and so then you can't come up with anything, so then you fall into all or nothing thinking, and so then you can't move forward, and then you don't move forward, and then you internalize that as failure. And you not only internalize that as failure, because failure is a part of success. I don't know personally any billionaires that I know personally who didn't fail at some time and have to rebuild, right? So failure is a part of success, but there's a difference between failing and being a failure. And one of the things I hear you saying is that we have to do the things until we have the confidence that we know we can do the things, and that there are certain things we can do to build in, to bake it into our life and program to take care of our mental health, take care of our stress, learn the sales tactics, but also build in the self-care as a part of daily life. Yes. And I'm just excited about this. So I understand that in the 15 or so minutes that we have left, that you're not going to be able to cover everything in that mega sales boot camp. But can you just give us a few strategies that our attendees today can walk away with and just put into practice immediately in their lives?
Thank you. Absolutely. What I will say as a backdrop is that so many of us, look, that word trauma is real. So many of us have dealt with things in our past, and we as African Americans in particular, we have this ability to swallow and keep moving. And I will always give us high five for that ability to be able to keep moving and to be in that survival mode and to make it, you know. But let me just say that we don't have to live there in survival mode. We don't. And I know that it's uncomfortable initially, because I know, and it has probably been for you too, JJ, to open up cans of worms from our past. But can I just say how God wired us? Reality is reality. We've as kids experienced things like watching domestic abuse, or perhaps we've been really, really poor, or we lived in violent neighborhoods. We've seen things that have blown us away. Well, that form of PTSD, we can swallow and we can keep moving. But can I tell you that it's going to operate in some shape or form? We talked about the different guises that trauma takes. It will. And I don't care how ambitious you are. Let me just say that. A lot of us are, I was a very, very ambitious person. Just was born that way. But I can be as ambitious as I want. If I have a broken leg, you know, I'm just not able to walk. I can be as ambitious and want to run as much as possible. If I have a broken leg, I have to attend to the broken leg. That is just fact if I want to be able to run. And if I want to run my race, my particular way, authentically, and God knows there is no capping to how far we can go with the help of God. But if I have that broken leg and I nurse that broken leg and I just live with that broken leg and I just say, okay, I just have a broken leg, does it? As opposed to saying I need to go to the hospital and I need to help expedite my healing so that I can use that leg. That's when it becomes, it's on us. It's on us to do. So, you know,
some of that comes from the resilience. And I know you're going to talk a little bit more about how African history plays a part in this, but some of that comes from our resilience, our natural strength and resilience, and the fact that we get it done. And it's always just worked out. We've limped along with the broken leg and things have worked out and eventually it's healed good enough rather than waiting, you know, trying to get it back to optimum performance. But then some of that is also a distrust. You know, some of that is a distrust, like I know I need more self-care, or I know I need to handle this trauma, but I don't trust any of the options available to me to actually care enough to help me because of my history with my race.
Yes.
And if I could just do a shameless plug in the middle of your interview, this is one of the biggest topics we're going to be talking about in my Juneteenth conference. We're going to be talking about post-traumatic slave syndrome, and we're going to be talking about the very real impact of all of these things upon us trying to make our lives better. Okay, so what you're telling me is when my leg breaks, I need to go get it fixed. Some of us don't for whatever reason, but we're more likely to go get the leg fixed than if we are to go get the brain fixed. Is that what I'm hearing? Am I hearing that right?
Definitely, I'm using the leg as a metaphor of sorts. Because what I am saying is that we oftentimes, especially in the African American community, we tolerate high levels of emotional pain. We are just able to just handle deep levels of deep depressions, deep anxieties, and keep it moving. And I'm saying keep it moving, but I'm just saying that you can move without the stress and the heavy burdens of depression. Just give me an example, PTSD symptoms. If you stop and say, and I get the fact about going through these different states, I understand about initially being distrustful, but here's the bottom line. When everything hangs in the balance, my ability to get more healed is going to affect how I parent. My ability to get more healed is going to affect the quality in my business. The customer experience that I give is going to be, everything's touched by my ability to get more healed. My ability to see what my money mindset is. And I'm going to give you a quick example, for instance, can free thousands and thousands of dollars once you have rectified why you keep living in this poverty mentality. Once you begin to heal that, God wants us to thrive, but sometimes we need to free the energies to be able to do just that. Let me give you a quick example, JJ. didn't even know this was an issue with me. This is why self-reflection is so important as far as I'm concerned. I'm in my 20s or something. In my early 20s. I have 2 kids at the time, just became a single mom, divorcee. And I am making okay money. I'm a teacher. I mean, teachers don't make big bucks, but I'm able to cover my boys. But I remember spending a few years being absolutely obsessed with being poor. In fact, I have such a good imagination. I remember just rehearsing what it was going to be like for us to be homeless with my 2 kids on either side at the end of a freeway with this big sign saying, "We'll work for food." I was playing all kinds of scenarios in my head. I was causing emotional pain for myself. And I really didn't understand why I had such an obsession.
I hope you've enjoyed this excerpt from the Women's Building Wealth Together conference. To hear the rest of the talk and access many, many other wonderful talks, go to jjclink.com/VIP. That's jjclink.com/VIP. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.